Higher, Yasin. We need it higher on that side.
All right, I've almost got it.
Yasin, grab my hand.
They thought
Yasin,
surviving the
grab my
shipwreck would
hand.
be the hardest part. They were wrong. The island was watching them long before they ever touched the shore. The sea was calm when the accident happened. There was no storm, no strong wind, no warning at all. The boat moved smoothly across the water, and the sun reflected off the surface like broken glass. Everyone on board felt safe. That was why the moment felt so unreal when the sound came. It was a loud cracking noise, deep and sharp, like metal tearing apart. The boat shook hard, throwing people off balance. Tools and equipment slid across the deck.
It's useless! The systems
Before
are
anyone
down!
could understand what had gone wrong, the engine stopped, and silence filled the air for half a second. Then panic exploded everywhere at once. Adeel grabbed the railing as the boat tilted to one side. Water rushed onto the deck, soaking his clothes and making the floor slippery. Someone shouted from below
Hold
deck.
on to the side.
Another person screamed in fear. The captain tried to give orders, but his voice was lost in the chaos. The boat had hit something hidden under the water. A rock or reef that did not show on the map. The damage was serious. Water poured inside fast, and the boat leaned more and more, groaning
Sara,
loudly as if it were
Are
alive
you
and in
okay?
pain.
It hurts, Adeel.
Adeel did not remember
The
deciding
current
to
is
jump.
too strong.
His body
Don't look
reacted
back.
before his mind
Just
could.
keep moving.
One moment he was holding the railing,
let go,
and the
hold
next he
on.
was falling into the ocean.
I
The
can't!
water was cold and
It
shocking.
hurts!
It stole his breath
Keep
instantly
swimming.
and
I
pulled
see
him under.
the island.
His chest burned as he fought to swim up. His legs kicked wildly. His arms pushed through the water until his head finally broke the surface. He gasped for air and coughed, swallowing salt water. When he looked back, the boat was already sinking. Smoke rose from the engine area. Alarms screamed uselessly. One lifeboat floated away, half full. Another was stuck and useless. People were scattered in the water, some swimming, some calling for help, some completely still. The sight filled Adeel with fear like he had never felt before. Then he saw land. It was far away, a dark shape on the horizon, but it was real. It was solid. The boat was dying, and the ocean had no mercy. The island became his only hope. He began to swim toward it without stopping. Every stroke felt heavy. His muscles burned. His breathing became rough and uneven. Time lost meaning. He did not know how long he had been swimming.
Sara,
Minutes felt like
are you
hours. His arms felt weak.
We saw you fall. Let's
His
get
legs
you up.
cramped. Several times he thought he could not continue. Each time, he forced himself to take one more stroke. At last, his hand touched sand. The feeling shocked
Nothing
him
here
almost
but
as much as the
splinters.
cold water had earlier.
I
A
see
wave
something
pushed him
further
forward,
down.
and he collapsed onto the
Near
beach.
the rocks. Lead the
He
way,
lay there
but
coughing
slowly.
and shaking as water ran from his clothes. His chest hurt with every breath. For a long moment, he did not move. He simply lay there, listening to the waves behind him and the sound of his own breathing. When he finally sat up, the sky above him was bright blue and empty. The beach was quiet. Too quiet. Black rocks rose
Sara,
sharply on one
are you
side,
alright?
and thick green
It's my
jungle covered the
ankle.
land behind the sand.
I can't move.
Broken wood, ropes, and pieces of the boat were
We need to
scattered
get her
along the
off the
shore.
beach.
The island looked beautiful in a dangerous way. Adeel stood up slowly and shouted for help. His voice sounded weak and small. At first, there was no answer. Then he saw movement farther down the beach. A person was there, stumbling and struggling to walk. Relief washed over him. He ran toward the figure, calling out loudly. When he got closer, he saw it was a woman. She fell to her knees in the sand, exhausted and shaking. Her name was Sara. Her hair was tangled and wet. Her clothes were torn. She looked up at Adeel with wide, frightened eyes. Instead of crying, she laughed in a broken way and then covered her face with her hands. She said that she could not see anyone else anymore. The others were gone. Adeel looked back toward the ocean. The boat had disappeared completely. Only open water remained. They stood there in silence for a long time. The truth slowly became clear. They were alone on the island. They searched the beach together, moving carefully and calling out in case anyone else had survived. No one answered. The tide had brought pieces of the wreck onto the sand. They gathered what they could find. There was a damaged backpack with a water bottle inside. A small knife inside a broken tool case. A long piece of rope tangled in seaweed. A torn plastic tarp. One flare, wet but possibly still usable. There were no phones. No radio. No food. Sara had hurt her ankle. It was swollen and painful. Adeel's arm was bleeding from a deep cut. They cleaned their wounds with seawater, knowing it was not clean but having no other choice. The sun slowly moved lower in the sky. The light began to fade. The air felt different as evening approached. The birds that had been flying above suddenly went quiet. The jungle made strange sounds. Insects buzzed loudly. Something heavy moved deeper inside the trees.
We have to keep moving.
Branches cracked slowly,
I'm
as
trying.
if something large was walking there. Sara held Adeel's
We'll rest
arm and
soon,
whispered
just
that
push
the
through
island
this.
did not feel empty. He felt the same fear but said nothing. They knew they needed shelter before dark. They chose a spot near the rocks, close to the trees but not inside the jungle. Using driftwood, rope, and the torn tarp, they built a simple shelter. It was weak, but it might protect them from wind and rain. Night fell quickly. Darkness came fast and thick. The jungle turned into a black wall full of unseen life. They had no fire. No food. Only the knife for protection. They sat close together, listening. Every sound made them tense. Sara asked quietly what would happen if no one came to rescue them. Adeel told her they would survive until someone did. He was not sure if he believed his own words. Rain began to fall later that night. It soaked their shelter and made the cold worse. Sara shivered badly. Adeel tried to tighten the tarp. His hands were numb. Then they heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Not an animal. Not the wind. Footsteps that sounded human. Adeel stood up and shouted into the darkness, asking who was there. There was no answer. Only the sound of rain and the feeling that something was watching them from the jungle. The first night on Survival Island had only just begun. The rain stopped just before sunrise. The air felt heavy and wet, and everything smelled of salt and leaves. Adeel had not slept. His eyes burned from staying open all night, and his body felt stiff and cold. Sara lay curled beside the rocks,
Watch your footing.
finally asleep,
Push it
her
tighter
breathing
against
slow
the
but
main
uneven.
beam. Almost
The
done
jungle
with
in
these
front of them
panels.
was quiet
Good.
again, but the
We need to
silence
finish
felt
the roof
dangerous,
before
like
dark.
something was waiting. When the sky began to turn gray, Adeel stood and stretched
Higher,
carefully.
Yasin.
His arms still
We
hurt,
need it
but
higher
the
on
bleeding
that
had
side.
stopped.
All right, I've
He looked
almost
toward
got
the
it.
ocean. The water was calm again, hiding the violence that had brought them here. There was no sign of the boat, no floating wreckage now. The island looked peaceful in the early light, almost beautiful, and that made it more frightening. Sara woke slowly and tried to stand. Pain shot through her ankle, and she cried out softly. Adeel helped her sit back down. They both knew moving would be hard today, but they had no choice. They needed fresh water, food, and a better shelter. The beach could not protect them for long. They searched the shore again in daylight. They found more broken wood and small pieces of plastic, but nothing useful. The water bottle was almost empty. They shared a few small sips, trying to ignore their thirst. The sun rose higher, and the heat returned quickly. Their clothes were still wet, clinging to their skin. Adeel suggested they move closer to the trees to look for shade and maybe fresh water. Sara agreed but warned they should be careful. The jungle looked thick and wild. They moved slowly, using a stick as support for her injured ankle. Every step into the trees felt like crossing a line that could not be uncrossed.
We're survivors,
Inside the jungle,
just like
the
you.
air was darker and cooler. Tall trees blocked
We need
most
to
of the
talk.
sunlight. The ground was soft and covered with leaves and roots. Strange plants grew everywhere. Some had sharp edges. Others leaked white liquid when touched. Insects buzzed around their faces, biting their skin. Sara tried to remember what she knew about tropical environments, but fear made everything unclear. They
See this
listened
symbol
carefully
here?
as they moved.
I've seen
Birds
this
watched
before in
them
my
from above.
grandfather's books.
Small animals
It
ran
means
away
danger.
through the bushes.
We have
The
to be
jungle was
careful.
alive in a way the beach was not.
We need to figure
It
this
felt
out
like
quickly.
the island was watching them, learning them.
Are these
After
the
walking
same
for some time,
symbols from the
they
wreckage?
heard running water. The sound gave them hope. They followed it carefully and found a small stream flowing between rocks. The water looked clear, but they knew it could still be dangerous. They had no way to boil it.
Look at these ropes.
Still, thirst pushed them
The others
forward.
might have made it this far.
They decided
There's
to drink
nothing
small
left,
amounts
Adeel.
and hope for the best.
We need to focus on
The
getting
water
off this
tasted
island.
fresh and cool. It was the best
This
thing
isn't
they had
gonna
felt
hold.
since the accident.
We have to try. It's the
Sara
only way
washed her
down.
face and hands.
What if we fall?
Adeel filled the bottle as much as he could. For the first time since arriving, they felt a small sense of relief. They followed the stream further and found a flatter area with fewer trees. It looked safer than the beach. There were fallen branches and large leaves that could be used for shelter. Adeel suggested moving their camp here. Sara agreed. The beach was too open, and the jungle edge felt safer during the day. They spent hours building a better shelter. It was still simple, but stronger. They leaned branches together and covered them
Look,
with leaves
over
and the
there.
tarp.
Do you
The
see
work
it?
was slow because of Sarah's
might
ankle,
be too
but she
far.
helped as much as she could.
We have to try.
Sweat covered them. Their stomachs growled loudly. Hunger became impossible to ignore. They talked about food. They knew almost nothing about what was safe to eat. Sara recognized a few plants that were definitely dangerous, which helped them avoid immediate mistakes. They searched for fruit but found only hard, unfamiliar plants. Adeel tried to catch small crabs near the stream, but they escaped easily. As the sun reached its highest point, the jungle grew louder. Strange cries echoed from far away. Something large moved through the trees again. This time it was closer. Leaves shook. Branches snapped. Sara froze in fear. Adeel grabbed the knife tightly. They hid inside their shelter and stayed quiet. The sounds moved past them slowly. Heavy steps. Deep breathing. Then silence. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Whatever lived on this island was not small. Later in the afternoon, they heard something else. A sound that did not belong to animals. A sharp knock. Metal hitting metal. Adeel's heart raced. He stood slowly and listened. The sound came again, faint but clear. It was coming from deeper in the jungle. Someone else was alive. Against their fear, they followed the sound. They moved carefully, calling out softly. After some time, they reached a small clearing. There, sitting against a tree, was a man. He looked exhausted, dirty, and injured. A deep cut ran across his forehead. His name was Yasin. He had survived by floating on a piece of wood and had reached the island alone. He had been wandering since then, lost and confused. He looked relieved and shocked to see other people. For a moment, they simply sat there, breathing, feeling the weight of not being alone anymore. Yasin told them something strange. He said he had seen signs on the island. Old signs. Broken structures. stones placed in patterns.
No! No,
He
get away!
believed people had
I
been
won't
here
let
before.
you near them! Stay back!
Maybe a long time ago. Maybe not. That night, the three of them sat together in the shelter. They shared everything they had learned. The island no longer felt like just a place to survive. It felt like a place with a past. And possibly a future
Yasin!
they did not understand. As darkness fell again, the jungle sounds returned. This time, they were closer. And mixed among them was something else. A low humming sound. Almost like a voice. Almost like a warning. The humming did not stop when the night grew deeper. It moved through the jungle slowly, rising and falling like breathing. Sometimes it sounded close, sometimes far away, as if it was circling them. Adeel sat awake with his back against the shelter wall, holding the knife tightly. His hands were stiff, and his arm ached where the cut had not fully healed. Sara sat nearby, hugging her knees, her injured ankle resting on a folded cloth. Yasin stayed quiet, staring into the darkness beyond the firelight, his face tense and pale. No one spoke. Even whispering felt dangerous. The jungle around them seemed to listen. The fire burned low. Shadows moved strangely along the trees. Every time the humming grew louder, Sara's breathing became shallow. She pressed her hand over her mouth to stop herself from crying. Adeel tried to stay calm, but his heart pounded so hard he felt it in his ears. Just before midnight, the humming slowly faded. It did not stop suddenly. It drifted away, like something walking deeper into the jungle. Silence followed, thick and uncomfortable. The insects returned, but their sounds felt weak compared to what had come before. Exhaustion finally took them. Sleep came in short, broken pieces. Adeel dreamed of the ocean pulling him under again. Sara dreamed of voices calling her name. Yasin dreamed of eyes watching him from the trees. The scream shattered everything. Adeel woke instantly, his body reacting before his mind did. The scream was loud and full of terror. It echoed through the jungle, sharp enough to make his chest tighten. Sara screamed too, sitting up suddenly. Yasin was gone. The place where Yasin had been sleeping was empty. His blanket lay on the ground, pushed aside. The fire was almost out. Adeel shouted his name. No answer. Sara tried to stand, pain shooting through her ankle, but fear pushed her forward anyway. Adeel helped her, and together they moved toward the jungle edge. The scream came again, weaker this time, then stopped completely. The jungle felt different now. Closer. Darker. The air felt heavy, pressing against their skin. Branches blocked their way. Leaves brushed against their faces like hands. They found Yasin near a rocky slope not far from the camp. He was lying on the ground, shaking badly, breathing fast and shallow. His eyes were wide and filled with terror.
Please help us!
Adeel knelt beside him and grabbed his shoulders.
We're here!
Sara crouched nearby,
Look, we're
trying
right
to calm
here.
him.
They have to
After
see
several
us.
moments, Yasin spoke. His voice shook as he explained what he had seen. He said he woke up and felt like something was watching him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a tall shape standing just beyond the firelight. It did not move. It did not make a sound. When Yasin stood up, it stepped back into the trees, but more shapes appeared beside it. They did not chase him. They followed him slowly, silently, as if they knew he could not escape. That was when he screamed. Adeel and Sara exchanged frightened looks. The idea of something intelligent living on the island changed everything. Animals hunted. Animals attacked. But this sounded different. This sounded like control. They helped Yasin back to camp, but no one wanted to stay there anymore. The shelter felt exposed. The jungle felt too close. Adeel suggested moving to higher ground, somewhere with a better view and fewer hiding places. At sunrise, they packed what little they had and began climbing uphill. The climb was slow and painful. Sara leaned heavily on Adeel. Yasin walked ahead, nervously scanning the jungle behind them. Sweat soaked their clothes. Their mouths were dry. Hunger twisted in their stomachs. As they climbed, the jungle slowly changed. The trees grew thinner. The ground became rocky. The sounds of
Yasin,
insects faded,
grab my
replaced by wind moving through open space. When they reached the top, the sight stopped them all.
Yasin,
A cliff dropped
grab my
sharply
hand.
toward the ocean. From there, they could see far across the water. Waves crashed against rocks below.
Hey!
The beach where
Over
Adeel
here!
and Sara
We're here!
first arrived looked small and distant, like another life. The view gave them relief, but it
think
did
they
not
saw
last
us.
long.
Brace
Behind the
for
cliff,
impact.
they found
We
old
hit the
remains.
reef.
Wooden posts
Break it
driven into the
apart.
ground.
My leg,
Broken
I can't
rope
move.
hanging loosely.
We have to jump.
Stone circles filled with ash. This place had been used before. Long ago, or maybe not that long ago. Sara examined the area carefully. She found symbols carved into stone slabs and tree trunks. The same shape repeated again and again. It looked like an eye surrounded by curved lines. She had no explanation for it. Yasin's fear turned into panic. He said people had lived here. Maybe they still did. Maybe the island did not want them to
See
leave.
how this line connects
They built a
here.
new shelter near
It's
the
not
old
just a
structure,
drawing,
using
it's
it
a
for support.
sequence. If we
It felt
follow
wrong
this
to use
path,
something that clearly
it
had
should
meaning,
lead us
but
to
they
the
had no
higher
choice.
ground.
Survival came first. That afternoon, Yasin managed to trap a small animal near the rocks. It was the first real food they had since the accident. They
Get
cooked it
back!
slowly over a small fire.
Help us!
The smell filled the air.
Please help
Eating
us!
gave them strength, but it did not bring comfort. As darkness fell again,
We're
the
here!
humming returned.
Look, we're
This
right
time it was
here.
stronger,
They have to see
clearer.
us.
It came from below the cliff, then from behind them, then from the sides. The sound surrounded them. It was low and steady, almost like chanting. The fire flickered violently. Shadows moved in ways that did not match the flames. Then they saw them. Figures appeared at the edge of the firelight. Tall and thin. Their bodies were dark, blending with the night. Their eyes reflected the fire like animals, but they stood upright, perfectly still. Adeel stood up and shouted, demanding to know who they were. His voice shook, but he did not stop. The figures did not answer. One of them stepped forward slowly. It raised its arm, showing a symbol carved deeply into its skin. The same symbol carved into the stone. Sara gasped. Yasin backed away, shaking. The message was clear. This island belonged to them. Fear took control of Yasin. He grabbed a burning stick and waved it wildly, shouting for them to leave. The figures
Yasin,
stepped back
stop!
slightly but did not disappear. Their silence felt like a warning. Suddenly, Yasin turned and ran toward the edge of the cliff. Adeel shouted for him to stop.
Higher, Yasin.
Sara screamed
We
his
need
name.
it higher on that side.
Yasin
All right, I've
slipped
almost
on
got it.
loose rock. The sound of his body hitting below echoed through the night. The figures vanished instantly into the jungle, as if they had never been
Watch
there.
your footing.
Adeel
Push
and
it
Sara
tighter
collapsed
against
to the
the
ground.
main beam.
They
Almost
cried
done
openly,
with these
shaking
panels.
with shock
Good.
and grief.
We need to finish
Yasin
the
was
roof
gone.
before dark.
The island had taken him. They stayed awake until morning, afraid to move, afraid to sleep. When daylight came, the island looked calm again. Peaceful. Almost kind. But they knew the truth now. They decided to signal for rescue immediately. They gathered wood, leaves, and anything that could burn. They built the largest fire they could near the cliff edge. Thick smoke rose into the sky. Hours passed. Hope faded slowly. Then Sara heard it first. A distant chopping sound. Adeel looked up and saw it. A helicopter. They screamed and waved wildly. The helicopter circled, then moved closer. Someone had seen the smoke. Rescue arrived quickly. A rope ladder dropped. Sara went first, crying as she was lifted into the air. Adeel followed. As the helicopter rose, Adeel looked down. At the edge of the jungle, the figures stood watching. They did not chase. They did not move. They simply watched them leave. The helicopter flew away, carrying them back to the world. But Survival Island stayed with them forever. Years later, in quiet moments, they still heard the humming. And they knew the island was still there. Waiting. They left the island behind. But some nights, they still hear the humming, and they know the island remembers them.